Suppose, just for a moment, that death is not the great disaster we have made it out to be. Suppose it is not a cosmic punishment, not a cruel interruption, not the universe suddenly turning against you. Suppose it is simply the moment where the hand finally opens. Because that is really what so much of human life feels like, isn't it? A kind of holding on, a tightening, a constant quiet effort to keep everything in place. We hold on to our name, our image, our plans, our memories, our relationships, our opinions. We hold on to youth. We hold on to certainty. We hold on to the idea that this life, as we know it, must somehow be preserved. And we call that living. But very often, it isn't living at all. It's bracing. It's like someone in deep water who does not yet know he can float. So he thrashes and struggles and exhausts himself, not because the water wants to drown him, but because he cannot stop fighting it. The tragedy is not the water. The tragedy is the tension. And I think much of our fear of death is exactly that. Not fear of some actual experience, because none of us can honestly say what death is in experience. What we fear is the loss of control, the loss of the tight grip, the end of the story we've been trying so hard to manage. Death seems terrifying because it asks from us the one thing we spend all our time refusing to give. It asks us to let go. Now that sounds dreadful only because we have been taught to think of ourselves as separate little creatures, isolated beings, locked inside a body, peering out at a world that is not us. And if that is how you feel yourself to be, then of course death will look like annihilation. It will seem like the end of everything that matters. But what if that feeling is the illusion? What if you are not a separate thing dropped into the universe, but an expression of it? What if you are more like a wave on the ocean than a stone thrown into it? The wave has a shape. It has a beginning and an end. It rises, curls, shines for a moment in the light, and then it falls. But the water is not lost. Only the form changes. And that, I think, is one of the deepest things we keep missing. We assume that if a form disappears, reality has been destroyed. But that is not what we see anywhere else in life. When a cloud becomes rain, nothing has gone wrong. When autumn takes the leaves, the tree has not committed a failure. When music fades into silence, the song has not been betrayed. The ending belongs to it. In fact, it is part of what makes it beautiful. Imagine listening to a piece of music and demanding that one note be held forever. It would stop being music. It would become noise. The melody lives by moving, by appearing and vanishing, by never staying where it was. And so do you. Your life is not a possession. It is a pattern, a movement, a dance. You did not invent it. You did not, somewhere before birth, sit down and assemble yourself piece by piece. You appeared, the way dawn appears, the way a breeze moves through trees, the way a wave gathers from the sea. And yet the little surface self, the ego, says, "No, this must be mine. I must keep this. I must remain exactly this way." That is the tension. The ego is useful, of course. It is a social mask, a role, a way of signing your name, making appointments, answering when someone calls you from across the room. But the trouble begins when the mask forgets it is a mask and starts calling itself the whole face. Then every change becomes a threat. Every wrinkle, every goodbye, every failure, every ending. Everything feels personal because the ego takes the movement of life as an attack on identity. But life is not attacking you. It is moving. That is what it does. And if you watch carefully, you'll notice that this movement is everywhere. In every breath, in every season, in every relationship, in every mood that comes and goes. Even now, the person you were 5 years ago is gone. The child you once were has vanished completely, and yet you do not usually mourn that as a cosmic tragedy. Something changed. Something unfolded. Life continued. So death is not the sudden arrival of impermanence into an otherwise permanent world. Impermanence was the arrangement all along. Death simply reveals it completely. Now, I am not saying this to make light of sorrow. Grief is real. When someone you love disappears from the visible world, the heart breaks. Naturally. Deeply. There is nothing false about that. Love in the world of form is tender precisely because form does not stay. The empty chair in the room, the silence after a familiar voice, the absence of a hand you used to hold. These things hurt, and they should. But grief is not the same as panic. Grief says, this mattered. Panic says, this must not happen. And those are very different. One can grieve deeply without concluding that existence has committed some unforgivable crime. One can ache and still sense that passing is not the opposite of life, but part of its rhythm. Inhaling and exhaling, waking and sleeping, sound and silence, coming and going. We accept this rhythm in almost everything, except ourselves. That is where the trouble begins. Because human beings are always trying to take the flow of life and turn it into something fixed. We want love without change, pleasure without loss, presence without passing. We want spring without autumn. We want the sunset to pause at its brightest color. We want the breath to come in, but not go out. But try that. Try inhaling without exhaling. You see how absurd it is. The out-breath is not the enemy of the in-breath. It completes it. And perhaps death is like that, not an interruption of life, but its completion. The final exhale. The moment the body stops tightening around a pattern it could never hold forever. That is why I say death is where you unclench. Because long before the body dies, most people are already clenched. In the jaw, in the chest, in the mind. In the constant effort to defend an image, to maintain a role, to control the uncontrollable. And the strange thing is that we think this tension is what keeps us safe, when very often it is the thing exhausting us. There are moments, though, when the grip loosens. You felt them. Maybe watching rain against a window. Maybe walking at dusk with no destination. Maybe listening to music so deeply that for a few seconds, the usual chatter in your head falls away. In those moments, you are not standing outside life trying to manage it. You are simply there, breathing, hearing, seeing, being. And there is relief in that, a deep relief. Not because you have achieved anything, but because for a moment you are no longer trying so hard to be someone. That, I think, is why silence can feel both frightening and beautiful. At first, when the noise falls away, the ego becomes restless. It wants distraction, commentary, something to hold. But if you stay there, if you do not run, silence begins to feel full, alive, spacious, not empty at all. The same may be true of death. We imagine it as blank because the ego cannot picture itself there. But the failure of the ego to imagine a thing does not prove that the thing is meaningless. It only shows the limits of the imagination we are using. A wave cannot understand the ocean by clinging harder to its own shape. So perhaps wisdom is not in solving death like a puzzle. Perhaps it is in relaxing into the mystery without calling it hostile. To stand before the unknown the way one stands before the sea at night, not with answers, but with awe. And if you live that way, something begins to change. You stop turning every moment into insurance against ending. You stop trying to squeeze permanence out of what is beautiful precisely because it passes. You love more gently. You listen more fully. You cling less. You notice more. Sunlight on a wall, steam rising from tea, a friend laughing, evening settling into a room. Small things become radiant when you stop asking them to last forever. Then life becomes less like a possession and more like music. Something to be heard, something to be entered, something to be loved while it is here. And maybe that is the real invitation hidden inside death. Not to wait until the final moment to let go, but to begin now. To stop gripping the river. To let a moment end without resentment. To let the past remain past. To let the face in the mirror change. To let sorrow come and go without turning it into an identity. To let joy arrive without immediately worrying about when it will leave. This is not indifference. It is intimacy without panic. And it has a strange effect. The less desperately you try to hold life, the more fully you are able to receive it. Like sand resting on an open palm. Like wind moving through an open hand. Nothing is owned, and yet everything is more present. So when the final moment comes, and it will, as surely as evening follows afternoon, perhaps it is not the catastrophe we imagined. Perhaps it is simply the last opening of the hand, the final softening, the great release from the effort of holding ourselves together. Not a failure, not an insult, just the end of contraction. Like a wave returning to the sea. Like a note dissolving into silence. Like an exhale completed at last. And if you can feel even a little of that now, then death no longer stands at the edge of life like an executioner. It moves within life as its hidden rhythm, teaching you, moment by moment, how to loosen, how to trust, how to stop bracing against the flow. And then peace is no longer something you hope to find after life. It begins here, the moment you stop clenching.